The signal pulsed through the darkness of space like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Aura stared at the display screen, her four eyes tracing the pattern for the thousandth time. 3 short bursts, 2 long, 3 short again. Over and over, calling out from a place no one had visited in 2,000 years. "It's artificial," she said, her translator converting her chittering voice into something the rest of the crew could understand. "No natural phenomenon creates this kind of regularity." Captain L moved his bulk closer to her station. The old had commanded the research vessel Infinite Curiosity for 40 cycles, and Aura had never seen him look uncertain until now. His scales rippled with colors that meant worry. "The quarantine belt has been forbidden for good reason," he said. "The extinct ones died there. Their war poisoned that entire region of space." "The Terrans," Aura corrected him softly. "They had a name, they were people just like us." "Were," L emphasized. "Past tense, whatever killed them might still be there." But Aura had already made up her mind. She had studied the Terrans her entire life, collected every fragment of data that survived their disappearance. They had been primitive by galactic standards when first contact was made, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. The Council had debated whether to uplift them or leave them alone. Before a decision was reached, the Terrans had gone silent. Their entire system went dark. When scout ships investigated, they found only ruins and radiation. The legend said the Terrans had fought something terrible, that they had lost, that their rage and desperation had burned so hot it left scars on reality itself. "This signal might be a warning beacon," she argued, "or it might be a call for help. Either way, we need to know. 2,000 years is a long time. Whatever danger existed there might be gone." L was quiet for a long moment. Then he called for a crew vote, as was tradition among research vessels. Out of 37 beings from a dozen different species, 32 voted to investigate. Fear lost to curiosity, as it always did among scientists. The Infinite Curiosity changed course, its drives bending space around the hull. It took 3 days to reach the edge of the quarantine belt. Aura spent those days barely sleeping, reviewing everything known about humanity. They had been strange even by the galaxy's diverse standards. Only one gender could bear children, yet both genders fought in their wars. They formed emotional bonds with animals that had no intelligence. They created art about death and suffering. They laughed at danger. The other species had found them fascinating and disturbing in equal measure. When the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, every sensor screamed warnings. The system ahead was a graveyard. Debris fields stretched for millions of kilometers, the shattered remains of stations and ships. Some of the wrecks were Terran in design, their angular shapes still recognizable. Others were completely alien, organic-looking things that seemed grown rather than built. "What were they fighting?" whispered the ship's navigator. Her people had perfect memory. She could recall every image she had ever seen of pre-war Terran vessels. These unknown ships, there's no record of them anywhere in galactic history. No one had an answer. The signal was coming from the third planet, the one the Terrans had called Terra or Earth. Aura felt her heart's beat faster as it appeared on the main display. It was blue and white and brown, clouds swirling over oceans and continents. It looked almost peaceful from orbit. Then the scans came back. The northern hemisphere showed massive craters, some hundreds of kilometers wide. Cities that had once held millions were melted slag. The atmosphere held traces of radioactive isotopes that had no business existing in nature. But the planet was alive. The oceans teemed with life. Forests covered the land. Whatever had happened here, Terra had survived it. "The signal is coming from the southern continent," reported. "Deep beneath the ice sheet. There's a structure down there and it's still powered." After 2,000 years, L's scales flashed disbelief. What kind of power source lasts that long? "Terran fusion reactors," Aura said quietly. Their records showed they had perfected stable fusion. Theoretically, those reactors could run for 10,000 years without maintenance. The captain made a decision. We land, but carefully. Full containment protocols. If there's any sign of danger, we leave immediately. The landing team consisted of Aura, 2 security officers, and a medical specialist named who had experience with. They took a shuttle down through Terra's atmosphere, watching ice and snow replace the view of space. The structure appeared on their sensors as a massive complex buried under 300 meters of ice, but there was a shaft leading down, perfectly preserved. The shaft's entrance was marked with symbols in a dozen languages. Aura recognized Terran script, but also, and others. Someone had wanted to make sure any galactic species could read the message. Hope SLEPS here, it said. Disturb only if worthy. The words made Aura's skin prickle. Hope. What kind of hope slept for 2,000 years? They descended in their shuttle, lights cutting through the darkness. The shaft was perfectly smooth, drilled or melted through solid ice with precision that spoke of desperate hurry and incredible technology working together. At the bottom, massive doors waited, sealed but not locked. They wanted someone to find this, Aura realized. They left a signal and an open door. Ran his scanner over the entrance. There's atmosphere beyond, breathable by our standards. Temperature is controlled. Whatever's in there is being maintained. The doors opened to their touch, sliding apart with a whisper of ancient hydraulics. Beyond was a chamber so vast it seemed impossible. Lights flickered on automatically, revealing row after row of cylindrical tanks. Thousands of them, tens of thousands. Each one was 2 meters tall and filled with translucent blue fluid. And inside each tank was a human. Aura approached the nearest one slowly, hardly daring to believe what she was seeing. The human inside was female, her dark skin marked with scars, her black hair floating in the suspension fluid. She wore a uniform of some kind, military perhaps, with symbols that meant nothing to Aura. But what made Aura's breath catch was the machinery. The human's arms and legs had metal components built into them, visible beneath the skin. Her skull showed the telltale signs of neural augmentation. Her bones had been reinforced with some kind of alloy. This wasn't just a human. This was something that had been changed, upgraded, turned into something more than human. "They're all soldiers," one of the security officers said, his voice tight. "Every single one. Look at the modifications." He was right. As they walked through the chamber, every tank held a similar sight. Humans enhanced with technology, their bodies turned into weapons. Some had obvious augmentations, mechanical limbs and armor built into their flesh. Others showed subtler changes, but the scanners revealed the truth. Reinforced bones, synthetic organs, neural networks that extended throughout their bodies. These humans had been rebuilt for war. At the center of the chamber stood a platform, and on it was a holographic projector. It activated as they approached, light coalescing into the shape of a woman. She wore the same type of uniform as the humans in the tanks, but hers was decorated with symbols that suggested high rank. Her face was lean and hard, her eyes carrying a weight that made Aura want to look away. When she spoke, the translator struggled for a moment before catching up. "If you're receiving this, then you found us. We are the last. We are the survivors." The woman's hologram looked directly at them, and Aura had the uncomfortable feeling of being judged by a ghost. "My name is Commander Sarah, and this is humanity's final message to the galaxy that abandoned us." The words hit like a physical blow. Abandoned. 2,000 years ago, we sent a distress call. We begged for help. Something had come to our system, something that existed outside normal space. We called them devourers because they consumed everything. Matter, energy, thought itself. They were hungry, and Terra was a feast. The hologram changed, showing images that made Aura's stomachs turn. Creatures that hurt to look at, their shapes wrong in ways that made no sense. They phased through solid matter, corrupted reality around them, turned humans into twisted parodies of themselves. The galaxy chose not to help. Too dangerous, they said, too unknown. They quarantined our system and waited for us to die. His voice was flat, emotionless. So we saved ourselves. We did things we swore we'd never do. We changed ourselves. We became monsters to fight monsters. More images. Humans undergoing surgery, screaming as metal was fused to bone. Scientists working frantically on weapons that violated every ethics protocol. Soldiers charging into battle against the devourers, dying and dying and dying until they found ways to win. It took us 50 years of hell, but we won. We killed them all, burned them out of our reality. Hologram smiled, and it was the saddest smile Aura had ever seen. But Terra was dying. The war had poisoned it. We could have scattered to the stars, but we were too dangerous. We knew what we'd become, so we made a choice. The hologram gestured to the thousands of tanks around them. We put ourselves to sleep, all of us who survived. We gave Terra time to heal and ourselves time to be forgotten. If the galaxy ever found us again, maybe enough time would have passed. Maybe you'd be ready for us. Maybe we'd be ready for you. His image began to fade. The facility will judge you. If you're worthy, if you're in need, it will wake us. If not, let us sleep. Please, let us sleep. We're so tired. The hologram vanished. For a long moment, the team stood in silence. Then alarms shrieked through the facility. One of the tanks was activating, its blue fluid draining away. The human inside jerked, her eyes snapping open. Vital signs appeared on screens, jumping from nothing to active in seconds. All around them, the facility was coming alive. Lights brightened. Systems that had slumbered for two were powering up with the deep thrumming of massive reactors. "We need to leave," Elle's voice crackled over their comms. "Now, we're detecting energy signatures all over the planet. Whatever you did down there, you've activated something huge." But Aura couldn't move. She watched as the tank in front of her opened, and Commander Sarah stepped out into a galaxy that had changed beyond recognition while she slept. Looked at them. Her eyes were augmented, glowing faintly with internal light. When she moved, it was with the fluid grace of a predator. "You came," she said, her voice rough from disuse. "After all this time, you actually came." Then the facility's defense systems activated with a sound like thunder, and Aura realized with growing horror that waking humanity might have been the second biggest mistake the galaxy ever made. The first was abandoning them in the first place. Sarah's body moved before her mind fully caught up. 2,000 years of sleep didn't matter. The augmentations remembered. When the security drones emerged from their alcoves, weapons charging, her enhanced reflexes made her a blur. She crossed 5 meters in a heartbeat, her hand catching the first drone and crushing its central processor. The second one fired, but she was already moving, her body twisting in ways that would have broken a human. The plasma bolt passed through empty air. She ripped the drone apart with her bare hands. The third drone died when she threw pieces of the second one through its optics at bullet speed. 3 seconds, 3 drones destroyed, stood over the wreckage, breathing hard, and felt the old familiar feeling. The joy of moving at the edge of human capability. The satisfaction of winning. Then her cognitive functions fully restored, and she realized what she'd done. The aliens were pressed against the wall, their various forms radiating terror. One was a tall creature with 4 eyes. Another was short and stout with scales. The third looked like a collection of tentacles held together by hope and prayer. All of them were clearly not devourers. All of them were clearly not threats. "Sorry," said, forcing herself to stand down. "Defense protocols, are you hurt?" The female, stepped forward slowly. She was trembling but trying not to show it, recognized courage when she saw it. "We're unharmed," the alien said, her voice coming through a translator. "I'm Aura of the Science Cast. We received your signal. We came to investigate." Felt something crack inside her chest. "You came. The galaxy finally came." "The galaxy thought you were extinct," Aura said carefully. We thought we were investigating ruins. We won, said. Against the Devourers we won, but the cost. She gestured at herself, at the modifications that made her more machine than flesh. We couldn't trust what we'd become, so we slept. She moved to a console and interfaced with it. Her neural implants connected seamlessly despite the centuries. The facility's systems opened to her like old friends. Data flooded her consciousness. Terra's status, the other bunkers, the sleeping soldiers. And the warnings. No, whispered. No, please, not again. What's wrong? Aura moved closer despite her obvious fear. Pulled up the data and displayed it holographically. The Devourers left eggs, dormant programs hidden in quantum substrate throughout the system. We thought we'd destroyed them all, but some survived. And when I activated the facility's full systems, the hologram showed spatial anomalies appearing at the edge of the Sol system. Reality was tearing. Something was coming through. We triggered their hatching protocols, finished. They're coming back. The scaled alien, the captain from the ship above, spoke through the comms. We're detecting massive distortions. Our sensors are showing things that shouldn't exist. Made a decision. She activated the facility's wake-up sequence. All across Terra, in bunkers hidden under ice and ocean and sand, the signal went out. Thousands of cryogenic chambers began their revival cycles. What are you doing? Aura asked. Waking up the storm, replied. She smiled, and it was a terrible thing to see. You wanted to know what happened to humanity. You're about to find out. The first Terrans emerged from their chambers in the hours that followed, watched on the facility's screens as they woke, disoriented and confused, then came back to themselves as their augmentations reactivated. She knew every one of them. Sergeant with his cybernetic legs that could break through steel. Lieutenant whose neural weapons could burn out electronic systems with a thought. Captain James who had replaced both arms with weapons platforms. They had been her soldiers, her friends, her family. She opened a comm channel that reached all of them simultaneously. This is Commander. I know you're confused. I know you have questions. But right now, I need you to do what you do best. Suit up. Arm yourselves. The Devourers are back and we have guests to protect. The response was immediate. Across Terra, humans who had slept for 2,000 years began preparing for war with the efficiency of a species that had learned to fight the. Aura watched it all with growing horror. Your people, they're not afraid, they're excited. We're persistence predators, explained, helping the alien team into environmental suits that would protect them. My species evolved chasing prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to love the hunt. When we were augmented to fight the Devourers, that instinct didn't disappear. It got stronger. You're insane, the tentacled alien said flatly. Probably, agreed, but we're very good at what we do. The first Devourers breached into normal space 6 hours later. They came through tears in reality, their forms impossible to fully perceive. Watched from the command center as her sensors tried and failed to properly register what they were seeing. The Devourers existed in more dimensions than 3, their bodies extending into spaces that human mathematics could barely describe. But math wasn't how you killed them. She'd learned that the hard way. All units this is, remember your training, don't try to understand them, just kill them. Terra's orbital defense grid came online. Satellites that had waited in dormant mode for suddenly acquired targets. Particle beams lanced out, striking Devourers with concentrated energy. The creatures writhed, their forms distorting, but they kept coming. On the surface, human soldiers deployed from the bunkers. They moved in squads, their augmented bodies allowing them to cross terrain at impossible speeds. Watched as Sergeant's unit encountered a Devourer that had landed near their position. The creature was massive, its form shifting between solid and incorporeal. Didn't hesitate. He activated the quantum disruptors built into his legs and charged straight at it, laughing over the comm. The technology locked the Devourer into normal space for a fraction of a second. That was all the time needed. He slammed into it with force that would have an human, and the Devourer died, its form collapsing into rapidly decaying matter. "That's one," shouted. "Who's keeping score?" More reports flooded in. Unit had found 3 Devourers and eliminated them with neural weapons, had turned his arm cannons on a cluster of the creatures trying to breach a bunker. Across Terra, humanity was doing what it had learned to do best. They were winning. Aura stared at the displays. "You're treating this like a game." "No," corrected her. "We're treating it like what we're good at. Humans need purpose, Aura. We need to matter. For 50 years, we fought the worst thing we could imagine. We became experts at killing the unkillable. Now they're back, and honestly," she felt the old familiar grin spreading across her face. "It feels good to have a clear enemy again." But the Devourers were adapting. They always did. They learned from each death, changed their tactics. A group of them phased through the orbital defenses entirely, ignoring the particle beams, and headed straight for the infinite curiosity. Captain L called over the comm. "You have incoming. I'm sending a team to your position." "We're a research vessel." The captain's voice was tight with fear. "We have no weapons." "You do now," said. She was already moving, pulling on armor that her body interfaced with automatically. "I'm coming to you. Just hold on." She grabbed Aura's arm. "You wanted to understand humanity. Come with me, see what we are." Before the alien could protest, was running, her augmented legs carrying her toward the surface at speeds that made the facility blur around them. Behind her, a strike team of 5 other humans fell into formation. They moved like they shared one mind, because, in a way, they did. Their neural links allowed them to coordinate without speaking. They burst from the facility into Terra's cold air. Above them, the sky was alive with fire as the orbital defense grid engaged more Devourers. Its armor sealed, its systems coming online and feeding her tactical data directly into her brain. The infinite curiosity was 200 kilometers away. At a dead sprint with her augmented legs, could cover that in less than an hour, but the Devourers would reach the ship in minutes. She called over the comm, "I need a miracle." "Already on it, Commander," came the reply. "Check your 6." Looked back and saw a vehicle racing toward them. It was a troop carrier that had been stored in the facility, its reactor freshly activated. Was driving, his face visible through the viewport, grinning like a maniac. They piled in, and the carrier took off at a speed that would have been suicidal if they'd had normal human reflexes. Felt the old camaraderie settle over her like a familiar coat. This was her team. These were her people. Together, they'd fought through hell itself. Aura clung to a safety harness, her alien features pale. "You're going to fight those things, directly." "That's the plan," confirmed, checking her weapons. The familiar weight of a plasma rifle in her hands was comforting. "They're trying to take your ship because they think it's easier prey. They're wrong." "How can you be so calm?" Met the alien's eyes. "Because I've done this before, because my team is the best, and because," she paused, trying to find words for something fundamental, "because this is what we are, Aura. We're the species that looks at impossible odds and says, 'Watch me.' It's not courage, it's not stupidity, it's just human." They reached the infinite curiosity as the first Devourer was breaching its hull. The creature was massive, its form rippling between states of matter. Could see L on the ship's bridge through the viewport, trying to maneuver away. "You're with me," ordered. "Everyone else cover fire." They exited the vehicle at full sprint. Activated her quantum disruptors, feeling the familiar buzz as they warped reality around her just slightly. It made her harder to hit, harder to see. It also made her sick to her stomach, but that was a small price to pay. She hit the Devourer at full speed, her enhanced strength driving her fist into its center mass. The quantum disruptors locked it into normal space. Was right behind her, his arm cannons firing point-blank into the creature's form. Its neural weapons scrambled whatever passed for its nervous system. The devourer died screaming in frequencies that made everyone's ears bleed. But two more were coming through the tier in space, grabbed Aura and threw her toward the ship's airlock. "Get inside, now." The alien stumbled but obeyed, turned back to face the devourers. Her team spread out in a formation they'd practiced 10,000 times. They didn't need orders. They knew what to do. One of the devourers reached toward, its limb extending through multiple dimensions. She dodged, but barely. It was fast, faster than she remembered. They were adapting. Shouted, "These things are getting smarter." "Then we get better," she replied. She pulled a grenade from her belt, activated it, and threw it directly into the devourer's center. It was a quantum bomb, a weapon that temporarily collapsed the boundaries between dimensions. The explosion was silent but devastating. The devourer's form shredded, unable to maintain coherence as reality itself rejected its existence. The second creature tried to flee, phasing back toward the tier in space. Didn't let it. His neural link with the infinite curiosity systems let him hijack the ship's engines for just a second, redirecting their energy into a focused beam that caught the devourer mid-phase. It evaporated. Stood among the wreckage, breathing hard. Her armor's readouts showed multiple minor injuries but nothing serious. Around her, her team was in similar condition. Bruised, bleeding, but alive and victorious. "Status report," she called out. "All green," came the responses. They were hurt, but they'd live. Opened a channel to the infinite curiosity. "Captain L, you're secure. The devourers are dead." There was a long pause. Then the captain's voice, shaky but grateful. "Thank you, Commander, you saved us." "That's what we do," replied. She looked up at the sky where more tiers in space were forming. "But this isn't over. This is just the beginning." Aura emerged from the airlock, her eyes wide. "How many more can you fight?" Smiled. "As many as we have to. That's the thing about humans, Aura. We don't quit. We can't quit. It's not in our nature." She turned to her team. "Let's get back to command. We have a war to win. Again." As they loaded back into the carrier, felt something she hadn't felt in 2,000 years. Purpose. Her species was awake, the enemy was clear, and there were people who needed protecting. Humanity had returned, and the universe was about to remember why they had been both feared and respected. The storm had awakened, and it was ready to rage. The battle for Terra raged for 3 days. Coordinated the defense from the main command bunker, her neural implants processing data from thousands of sources simultaneously. Every human soldier on Terra was connected through their augmentations, creating a distributed intelligence network that could adapt faster than any individual commander. The devourers kept coming. They learned with each wave, changing tactics, but humanity learned faster. That had been the key to winning the first war. Humans adapted at a pace that seemed impossible to other species. When something didn't work, they tried something else immediately. When the devourers developed resistance to one weapon, humans switched to another before the creatures could capitalize on their evolution. Aura watched it all from the command center, her scientific mind trying to catalog what she was seeing. The humans fought with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic, because it was. Their neural links allowed them to share tactical information instantaneously, to warn each other of dangers before they became lethal, to coordinate attacks with precision that made them seem like one organism with thousands of bodies. But it was more than just their technology. It was their attitude. "Just used himself as bait," Aura said, watching one screen in horror. "He deliberately exposed himself to draw 3 devourers into an ambush." "Classic," said, without looking away from her own displays. "He's done that maneuver about 100 times. But he could have died." "He has backups," said it so casually that it took Aura a moment to understand. "Every soldier here has their neural patterns backed up every 6 hours. If dies, we grow him a new body and restore his consciousness. He'll be back online in about 2 days. You treat death as a temporary setback. We had to, replied. The Devourers didn't die easily. We needed to be able to take risks that would have been suicidal for normal humans, so we made death something we could come back from. It changed how we fight, made us aggressive. On the screens, Gambit paid off. The 3 Devourers fell into the trap, and a full squad of humans eliminated them with concentrated fire. Survived, laughing over the calm. But the battle was taking its toll, could see it in the numbers. They were winning each engagement, but the Devourers kept coming. The tiers in space weren't closing. If anything, they were growing larger. We need to seal the breaches, she said, bringing up the tactical map. If we don't stop them at the source, this could go on forever. How? Aura asked. Those tiers exist across multiple dimensions. Your weapons can interact with the Devourers, but sealing dimensional rifts. Stared at the map, her augmented mind working through the problem at speeds that made normal human thought seem glacial. Then an idea formed, terrible and brilliant in equal measure. The infinite curiosity, she said suddenly. What type of reactor does it use? Captain L had joined them in the command center after the attack. He spoke up, his scales showing confusion. Standard antimatter containment. Why? Because antimatter explosions create gravitational distortions, said, her hands flying over the controls. If we could detonate one inside a dimensional rift, the gravity well might collapse it. That would destroy the ship, L said slowly. Yes. And whoever delivered it. Yes. Silence fell over the command center, met the captain's eyes. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your ship, but I am asking you to let us use it. I'll pilot it myself. No, Aura said immediately. There has to be another way. There isn't, replied. Not in the time we have. The Devourers are getting stronger with each wave. Eventually they'll overwhelm us. This ends it now. She turned to L. I need your permission, Captain. It's your ship. The old looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something Aura had never seen him do. He laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. Commander, you saved my crew. You've been fighting to protect us since you woke up. How could I say no? He paused. But I have a condition. This is still my ship. If someone's going to fly it on a suicide mission, it should be me. Captain, no, Aura protested. I'm old, Aura, Elle said gently. I've had a good life. These humans have barely had a chance to live theirs. Let me do this. Shook her head. With respect, Captain, you're not augmented. You won't have the reflexes needed to navigate a ship through dimensional tiers at the speeds required. I will. Then take me with you, Elle said. Someone should witness what you're about to do. Someone should be able to tell the galaxy. Considered this, then nodded. Agreed, but we leave in 1 hour. I need to set the coordinates and modify the antimatter containment to detonate on my command. The next hour was chaos. Worked with her engineering teams to prepare the Infinite Curiosity for its final mission. The ship's antimatter reactor was reconfigured to deliberately fail, creating an explosion that would rival a small star. The navigation systems were slave to neural implants, allowing her to fly the ship with thought alone. Aura found her in the ship's cargo bay, running final checks on her armor. You don't have to do this, the said quietly. We could find another way. There's always another way, agreed. But this one works. This one saves lives, that's enough. You humans are so ready to die. We're ready to matter, corrected her. There's a difference. Every species dies, Aura, but not every species gets to choose what their death means. I'm choosing to make mine count. She paused, then pulled something from her pocket. It was a data chip, small and simple. This has everything. Our history, our technology, our mistakes. Give it to the galaxy. Let them learn from us. Let them know we tried. Aura took the chip with trembling hands. I'll make sure they know. Boarded the Infinite Curiosity with Captain L. The old settled into the co-pilot's seat with surprising grace. "I've never flown with someone who could control a ship with their mind," he said. "It's not as impressive as it sounds," replied, initiating the launch sequence. "Mostly it just gives me headaches." The ship lifted off from Terra's surface, its engines burning bright against the darkness. Could feel every system through her neural link, could sense the antimatter containment like it was part of her own body. The modifications her engineers had made were elegant and deadly. One command from her, and the containment would collapse, releasing the antimatter in an explosion that would be visible across the system. She flew toward the largest dimensional rift, the one at the edge of Sol. It was massive, a tier in reality that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Devourers poured through it in endless waves, their forms writhing in spaces that human eyes weren't meant to perceive. "All units," broadcasted to every human soldier on Terra. "This is Commander. I'm going to seal the main rift. When I do, the smaller rifts should collapse. Be ready for one final push. Make it count." The responses came back immediately. Voices she'd known for decades, some for centuries if you counted the subjective time of the war, and dozens more. They understood what she was about to do. They wished her well. They promised to make her sacrifice matter. Accelerated, pushing the infinite curiosity toward the rift at speeds that made the ship groan in protest. Space warped around them as they approached the tier. Reality became flexible, uncertain. L gripped his seat, his scales flashing colors that meant fear and awe. "Commander," he said quietly, "why did you really volunteer for this? You could have ordered someone else." Thought about lying, then decided he deserved the truth. "Because I'm tired, Captain. I've been fighting for so long. Even with the sleep, even with the gaps, I'm tired of being a weapon. This way, I get to be a shield one last time. It feels right." They entered the rift. The infinite curiosity shook as it passed through layers of reality, dimensions folding around them like paper. Augmented senses struggled to process what she was seeing. Spaces that existed in more than 3 dimensions, colors that had no names, geometries that made her biological brain scream even as her enhanced portions tried to make sense of them. She flew deeper, her neural link with the ship keeping them stable even as physics itself seemed to give up around them. Devourers noticed them, turning their attention toward this small vessel invading their domain. "Nearly there," muttered. Her instruments showed the center of the rift, the point where it was weakest and strongest simultaneously. If she detonated the antimatter there, the gravitational distortion would collapse the entire structure. Devourers attacked. They phased through the hull, their forms incompatible with normal matter. El cried out.